The topic that I want to talk about today is the Sitecore Marketing MCP Server and how we can combine the power of that with Claude Code and something called n8n for workflow automation. And it's a content generating powerhouse is the tagline there. So let's break it apart and get into it. We'll go through my introduction, what the MCP server is, Claude Code. If you're not familiar, everybody's kind of familiar with Claude at this point, but let's talk about what Claude Code is versus the Claude CLI and how we can use it. And then the workflow automation to round that out as far as an idea that I built a demo around for that. A little bit about me. I am the Senior Director of Technology at n8n, which is a Sitecore Gold partner for the last 15, 16 years. I lead our Sitecore practice, our DXP practice. I started on Sitecore in 2007. So started my development around 25 years ago, but been with Sitecore for a majority of it. My first project was on Sitecore 5.2. That I thought I would fix from the last presentation coming in. Sitecore, I guess I had 2007 Sitecore certified, and I'm a expert in nested repeaters, and that's the last time I will repeat that joke. The content powerhouse. Let's get right to it, right? So let's talk about the tools. So first we have the Sitecore AI MCP server. And this is a bridge, call it the bridge to our AI, Sitecore AI platform through the model context protocol. And it allows for AI models or LLMs to directly interact with Sitecore's content and marketing capabilities and making it possible to automate and orchestrate tasks outside of Sitecore AI. In the middle, that was not supposed to appear like that, but let's go with it. We have Claude Code, which is Anthropic's coding tool. And this is where all of our LLM, our intelligence, is going to live. And Claude Code is going to be able to read and write and reason our content. And it's really going to drive the logic and quote unquote decision making, the AI of this entire pipeline. And then finally, n8n is our workflow automation layer. And think of that as just the glue that's going to connect everything. And it's going to handle our triggers and our routing and data flows between our services. And then give us a nice visual way to orchestrate all that in a very complex multi-step process. We can bring that together. And these are the three tools that are going to power our stack here, combining our AI reasoning with our platform connectivity and our workflow automation into one pipeline. And I'm going to throw Teams in here because I needed a trigger and I needed a very easy, simple way to just get the idea going. So I'm going to throw Teams into the stack. And you're going to be like, well, look, let's do Teams. We're also going to skip to the last page of the book. And what I'm going to do is dangerously stop sharing. And I'm going to share the Teams window. But first, I'm going to ask the group, the first person to answer, what is your favorite thing about Sitecore AI or Sitecore?
No more upgrades.
No more upgrades. That's
Conditions apply.
All right. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, didn't have this prepped ahead of time. So you're going to see a little bit of, I'm going to say in my Teams channel, I'm going to say, write a blog on Sitecore AI and no more upgrades. I'm just going to hit send on that and I'm going to let that go. And we'll come back and check on that in a little bit. Oh, great. Something's happening. Something is happening in the background. Stop sharing. We'll come back to that in a second. All right. Let's get back to. I knew I'd fumble through this, right? Zoom, share. think we're seeing. Let's see if I can get my presentation load back up. Oh, I cannot. I'm going to lose my notes, but no big deal. Sitecore Marketing MCP. Let's talk about that. That's the first step, right? So the Sitecore Marketing MCP server for Sitecore AI. You can go and read about it here and how to set that up. We'll talk very briefly about that. You guys are seeing like the deck again, right?
Yeah.
I wish I could see the presenter. Not to be confused with another MCP server that is out in GitHub, that is the unofficial MCP server by Anton, and that's not what we're talking about today. You can find that here, and that would work for Sitecore XP and XM. So two different products, same name, a little bit of collision, and Anton has a lot better AEO and GEO. So if you ask Claude or ChatGPT, like, hey, I want to install the MCP server for Sitecore, it's probably going to give you instructions on how to do this because it's in GitHub. So to be clear, we're not talking about this server. We're talking about the one that is already pre-installed as part of your Sitecore AI instance. So real quick, the Sitecore Marketing MCP server. What is it? And what is an MCP server? So very simply, I know that we've probably all heard talks and we're familiar with MCP and maybe we're not, but APIs expose individual services to Sitecore. So Sitecore has some web APIs that you're able to call. However, an MCP server is a wrapper on that registers those APIs as tools so that they're discoverable by LLMs or AI like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you choose as your interface to talk to those APIs. So what AI is bad at is doing things like Postman, like, hey, call this API. If you ask Claude to make a call to the Sitecore API, it will likely create a Python script to make that call because it doesn't know how to do it itself. So Claude is going to talk in a more, like, say, natural language, and it needs the MCP server to say, like, hey, MCP server, make a call to this API, and then it's happy. Then it's able to interface between your LLM and your MCP server, in this case, Sitecore. So what can the Sitecore MCP server do? It can do a lot. This is straight up from the Sitecore documentation. You can do things around site management, page management, content management. We'll drill down into every one of these. Managing components, asset management, personalization, access to your brand kits and briefs. Anything that's exposed through Sitecore AI that's wrapped in the MCP server is exposed through that. So things like site management. I can ask Claude, tell me all the sites in my Sitecore tenant. And it will. All right. Get information about the Niche Tech blog site. We're going to talk about that in a second. Show all the specific pages on my site, and it's going to be able to return answers. I'll pop over to Claude itself and show you live in a minute. You can do page management. You can search pages containing Sitecore in the title. You can create content based on templates or branch templates that you might have. You can create content, like adding an entire French language version to the homepage that's there and translating it from that content at a page level. You can get the HTML for a page so that you can maybe do something with that HTML, read it or tweak it, audit it. All the way down to content management. You can create individual data sources, interact with individual components on the site. So you can say straight up, create a new blog about AI trends and put it in this technology section. And Claude will be able to interface with your MCP server and be able to do that. So if you're working with the MCP server today, you're familiar with all of these. Interacting with fields on your components, listing all of the templates that you have available. The way I thought about this is kind of like Sitecore Rocks in a way where you're able to interface with Sitecore directly, but in a more within Claude or ChatGPT or within your AI, getting all the content details. So you can bring your favorite AI client to be able to interface with this. Claude, Cursor, Copilot. For us today, I chose Claude Code. I think Claude Anthropic is winning the race here, and Claude Code is incredibly powerful to us as developers and to marketers as well using the Sitecore MCP server. So on the left here is Claude Code. If you were to run a terminal, and we'll run a terminal here in a second, where you can set up a project and use Claude in the terminal to be able to interact with your project and with the model. It also sits within VS Code. If you're familiar with our AI generated coding and vibe coding and using Claude here, based on a set of instruction files or using Claude directly in here, we can use Claude in our projects. Okay, so that's great. So how do I use the MCP server? Let's see here. I am going to share my terminal. Let's see. You guys all see terminal, I believe. So I'm going to go right into Claude. And within Claude, let's see if that MCP server is there. So I can say /MCP and manage my MCP servers. Let's see if Sitecore is in here. Sitecore is in here, and I have previously connected it today using browser authentication. So we can see that Sitecore here is registered as one of my MCP servers. Now I can look into this and see. So this is going to tell me, as part of this Claude tooling, all of the tools that Claude has discovered as part of having this MCP server connected. So other than view tools, reauthenticate is just reauthenticating with the OAuth token, or clearing that authentication, or reconnecting, or disabling. So those are kind of straightforward and for the most part useless, right? Like, well, they have their uses, but we'll talk about the view tools. Here's just a list of all 48 calls that are our API calls, essentially. So we can see all the things that we talked about, how to list our sites or list our pages or list our components by GUID. So if you were to make calls within Postman, Claude is able to now kind of make the same similar calls that are registered with the MCP server and call all of these endpoints using the LLM. Right? See what it can do. Oops. So I'll say, look at my Sitecore site and tell me how many logs. Simply like that in natural language. Now, I'm going to let that run. In the old world, I think any developer would say like, oh, I can write you a PowerShell extension, a script there. Or if you're Yogesh, I'm so thankful he's on this call, he would say, I can just do that in SQL Server and return how many items are on my blog template. And it would tell me how many blogs I have. So that's cool, but I can have Claude do that too. And it's going to query, hopefully, and pull back the count of blogs that I have and maybe a list of all the blogs that I wrote. These queries take anywhere between 4 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. So we're just going to give this maybe 1 or 2 more seconds. I don't think I want to stomach sitting here through all of it, but what I can do is I did this previously and I took some screenshots of the output, so we can just walk through that with a little bit of theater of the mind and see what the MCP server can do when we interface with it like this. We'll give it till 1 minute 30 seconds to see if it comes back. All right, it has not. So I will flip over to sharing my deck again. PowerPoint slideshow. Okay. So this was I did this previously. I said, tell me to look at up my Sitecore site, same exact query, and this is how it came back. Told me I have 155 posts across this niche tech blog site in Sitecore AI. And on top of that, like I said, we can write a PowerShell query and it'll tell me the same thing. But Claude analyzed this a little bit more and told me a little bit more that I didn't even ask for. Across different categories like healthcare, UX, Salesforce, Sitecore, across various topics like Sitecore, and I don't know what this other thing is. Madhu might know, Optimizely something. Nobody's ever heard of it. And commerce, healthcare, AI, other DXPs. So it's able to give me a little bit more insights based on my query. That was pretty cool. Oh, I can't see this. This is annoying. So I asked it, give me a little bit more context around these blocks. Break it down by topics. And it told me. It broke it down into this nice format of all the categories and what we talked about in our blogs. And I based this off of a real life export of our nichetech.com blog. And it tells me all the blog posts and 30% are about Sitecore and all the other related topics, all from a very simple query. So quite powerful stuff from a content auditing standpoint. I told it how many were written by me. And then it told me exactly how many were written by me. Now, this took me seconds to just write the query. As a content marketer, I might be able to go in and very easily audit my content. How many blogs did I write in 2025? How many blogs did I write in the last 10 years? How many blogs did I write on Sitecore? And it'll be able to query that and give me the results without the need for any development. So a couple different use cases here from a development standpoint, our developer standpoint, or a marketer standpoint. Us as developers, or maybe we have some marketers on the call, we have the same tool to fulfill both types of use cases. We might, as developers, be querying contents from Sitecore for development purposes, to create content based on templates or fields or auto-populating. Maybe we're doing a mass migration. Maybe we're trying to scaffold pages out. Maybe we're doing a big bulk migration, trying to do it programmatically. From a marketing standpoint, kind of similar use cases, generating content directly from ChatGPT or Claude. Maybe we're doing a content audit. Want to say, tell me all the pages that are older than 5 years or 10 years. And it'll give me a report. Or find content. Or updating content, copy or images, finding things that might not be in compliance. I can feed it a document and say, here's my brand guidelines or my style guideline. Tell me all the content that doesn't abide by this. And it'll give you a nice report. Or hey, how would AI use it? Well, Agentic Studio within Sitecore, of course. But I want to use it with Claude. I want to use it from the outside with my friend Claude. And I want to do it on autopilot. Agentically. Sorry. That's the word. Agentically. All right. Claude API. So I'm going to use the Claude Agentic API using my API tokens. Right. I'm going to create a client to query the MCP server. It's going to take an API key. It's going to cost me money. But I don't like that. So I want to use my Claude subscription. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. I asked ChatGPT what would it envision the animal to be if I said bash terminal, and this is the image that it generated. But what I want to do is I want to expose the Sitecore MCP server to scripting so I can do something in either PowerShell or bash. So how can I do that? With Claude, right from the CLI, I can add the prompt flag and pass it a prompt. And this is really and this is going to use my Claude authenticated OAuth session to be able to execute prompts from Bash. Now, once I'm in Bash, I kind of can do anything. I can connect to any other service that I want or script anything that I want. And this is really where it feels like a superpower hack because I'm not using any of my API tokens. I'm just using my subscription, which has its limits. So you're going to hit the same limits that you would with Claude or ChatGPT as far as the token usage limits within your subscription. But for me, I want to use my subscription. I don't want to run up the bill on token usage. So you can do quite a bit with this. You could also use the API-based tokens as well. But this is just something that I preferred for the sake of being able to do this without having to put my credit card in. All right. So I think I wanted to show. Well, yeah, I wanted to show that. Give me 1 second. Let's stop sharing this. Share. I'm going to exit from Claude. And what I can do is say Claude-P and then my prompt. You all see terminal, I believe, right? And I'll say in 1 sentence, why is Sitecore AI the best DXP? Now, this shouldn't take more than like 10 seconds or so, but this is going using my Claude authenticated OAuth subscription, and it's going to kick back right in the terminal, print here, why Claude thinks that Sitecore is the best DXP. So that's pretty cool, right? But now that I'm in Bash, I can kind of start doing anything, right? I can say, pipe that to a file called Sitecore the best markdown. Now I can start generating files within my project, right? Or I can feed another prompt into the prompt. So maybe so now I can see, I can read that file, and I don't know why I said I'll answer that from my general knowledge because I'm in the terminal, so that doesn't make any sense. But anyways, it did give me the answer that's in here. It must have like written this in the beginning, which is weird. But anyways, it got the job done, right? So it still wrote that file and it wrote this into the file, and then I was able to read that file from here. This is weird, but AI. So it's probabilistic and not deterministic, so you never know what you're going to get at any given point here. All right, great. So we've covered Sitecore MCP Server. We've covered Claude CLI. We can now say to Claude, you kind of get the point here where I can say Claude from the prompt mode, interface with my MCP server. Great. We're building up to something here, I swear. Back to the PowerPoint. I think you should see Elmo. So where are we going? Well, here's my idea. And we started off doing something in Teams where we had a blog topic. Now I just want to push that live. I just want to push that live straight into Sitecore. So let's check on that. Let's see what happened. If the demo gods were fair to me today. Let's see here. You should see Sitecore. I'm going to refresh my 2026. Let's see here. This is today's date. Let's see here. Oh, our topic was no more upgrades. We put something into Teams, and in the background, over the last 30 minutes ago or so, while I was talking, something happened. In the background, it created a blog entry directly into Sitecore, just ready for me to publish, or maybe it published. But in this case, it's ready for me to publish. Sitecore AI in the end of the upgrade treadmill, what it means for you, right? And a blog written by Claude around just that topic. Now it's very baseline, right? Like there's a lot of directions that we can go with this. This is in draft. I would encourage you to read through this and make edits. But it generated this content and it's already in Sitecore and it's ready for us to publish. It also added in some navigation title. It added in Open Graph SEO titles and descriptions. A little bit of editing I think I need to do. Has some bolding around here for some reason, but for a POC, it created this. Okay, so what's happening here? Any questions? Everybody kind of following so far? In here, we're going to go back to Teams real quick. I want to just show you that in Teams, it's telling me the blog was published to Sitecore. It published a blog with the title of this that we saw at the end of the upgrade treadmill, and a path to this is this is my local project. I was just spitting out some meta information, and it's been created in Sitecore and it's ready for review. Amazing. All I did was type in here one topic name and went through a lot, and it published that out to Sitecore. Well, let me show you what the allot is. So there's a lot more going on between blog topic and live. We posted something in Teams and it was live. That's kind of it. But then there's a lot going on behind the scenes there. When I posted something in Teams, Claude went and did research. And then Claude wrote a draft. And then Claude critiqued the blog itself. And then Claude added all the SEO stuff. And I could have Claude create an image or DALL-E create an image for the blog. And then it's going to publish that to Sitecore. So that's a lot. That's a lot that Claude is doing. And that takes a lot of orchestration. Let me just show you really quick what that looks like in my project. So I have a project here in VS Code, and it's just a bunch of markdown files that are Claude MD files. So this folder here is really this project that I created. Close Claude asking questions. I have three things going on that I talked about. I had Claude do the research, Claude critique my blog, Claude do SEO optimization and image generation. And I want to do this in a consistent way with my brand and my tone and my style and my critique. So that's all structured within our Claude files. So I have agent 1, my researcher, and it has a Claude file. And agent 2, my critics, and it has a Claude file. And agent 3, my publisher, and it has a Claude file. So in here, this is a markdown file that is my prompt that I send to the Claude CLI to do this agent's role. In this case, this is the research agent. It's going to draft my blog as a blogging specialist, and these are the instructions that I gave it. I researched the topic that I toss at you, and here's my brand guidelines. I have a brand guidelines markdown file. Here's my style guide to match the tone that I have. I'm managing this all myself. My own context is managed all myself within my project. Here's the input format. I'm going to give you the blog topic as we passed in the Teams. I'm going to set a target audience someplace else. There's a default target audience. I can say how many words I want, and then maybe some additional requirements. So a lot of food for thought here. I'm going to show you the bare bones approach. And then this is really like, this is what you spit out. This is all prompt engineering and building your Claude MD files. So that's the researcher. Same kind of thing with the critic. What I want to go through is say like, hey, look at this from a tone critic and a brand critic and a technical critic, and make sure that this meets my standards based on how I define these standards within here, all prompt engineering, right? And if it doesn't like it, I want to pass it back to the drafting agent to do it again. And if it's all good, I want you to then enhance the SEO and give me an image, and then give me some write-ups for different social media outlets like LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I might want to push this for omni-channel distribution if I were to reuse this same content to push out. And this is the prompt behind that. So a lot of these prompts, right? But they're all just trapped here in markdown files. How do we pull it all together? We're going to pull it all together with n8n. Now, there's a lot of agentic AI orchestration engines. I chose n8n because it's open source. It's very easy to learn and use. I can run it in a local Docker container, which I am. I can use it for free. It's very extensible. I can connect a lot of different things to it, but it allows me to orchestrate all of my agents either within 8.8n or orchestrate processes. In this case, not using the agents within Edit 8 and like ChatGPT or Claude, because it's going to require me to put my key in. And I didn't want that. I want to call shell. I want to call SSH. I wanted to call bash. So I wanted to call all those agents that I showed you those prompt files and pass Claude the prompt files within the SSH and orchestrate going from agent 1 to agent 2 to agent 3, and then eventually publishing it to my MCP server. And there's a lot more popping between slides than I thought. Where am I going next? I'm going to Chrome. At this point, I'm just going to share my entire screen so to make it a little bit more. So, a lot going on here. This is all the orchestration. So I wanted to set a trigger. I set a trigger in Teams to watch a specific channel. So that's, you saw me put in my channel, hey, niche tech blogger, write me a blog about this topic. In this case, no upgrades ever, right? So my n8n process is reading my Teams channel and it's routing the message accordingly. So if I put in there that I'm looking for a specific thing, like, hey, there's a blog request, like somebody tagged me with niche tech blogger, so I have some topics and special instructions. If I see that in that Teams channel, act on it. In this case, write a blog. Write a blog on the topic that I passed in. The audience is business professionals in this case. Maybe I can add and extend that to make that also part of the prompt or something else. We can talk about that in a second. But I want to orchestrate all that through just putting in Teams. You can do it with anything, email, Slack, or on a schedule. We'll talk about the enhancement of this and how we can run that in a second. I'm going to notify back into Teams, hey, I got your topic. I'm going to write a blog on that. A bunch of cleanup things and processes I have in between as far as parsing out that Teams message. Then I'm going to start my research agent. Let me show you this. This is where I say my prompt. And I pass it that prompt file of where in my project, that researcher, the MD file that's associated with that. So I'm going to tell, this is really where you need to look, right? Call Claude using prompt mode. This is it right here. And pass and call the prompt that I have added in there along with my topic. And it's going to go through It's going to do that. It's going to call that prompt file and then start doing my blog. In this case, it's just telling me all of the things, key findings. Oh, this is something else. This is some test data that n8n could give you on previous runs, but it's going to run that agent and it's going to parse some of the content from that agent. It's going to go on to agent number 2, where it reads the previous blog. So what's happening is in Visual Studio, I can kind of show you the easiest way to see this is in source control because I didn't ignore these. It's creating all these inputs and outputs for the next job. So I can just ignore this, but this is like adding in, say, temp files, all of the research that's being done and spitting out all these files so that the next job can pick up the next file. So it allows me to write to these markdown files and then pick up the markdown file on the next agent or step in my workflow. So I go from my researcher to my critic. Here's what I talked about. I want to parse the critique. If I don't like it, send it back to revise, enhance the SEO, combine everything together with a couple prompts, read that final draft, parse it, notify in Teams. Hey, got your blog ready? I'm going to publish that. Read the blog, parse it again in a different way for Sitecore, parse it into JSON for Sitecore, and then using the MCP agent here to once again call. This is the same thing. Let's just key in on what I have highlighted. I know it's probably like drinking water from a fire hose, but essentially I want you to call Claude using prompt mode again. And this time I'm going to say my allowed tools are the Sitecore MCP. I'm going to tell it it's allowed to create pages. I'm going to tell it it's allowed to get the page. It's allowed to list out pages and allowed to do insert options. Because in my case, my blog is in a bucket. So I'm also going to tell it like, oh, hey, here's the parent bucket that I want you to write all my blogs into. And here's the GUID for my template ID. So I can pass that to my MCP server and say, create my blog content based on everything that I just passed you from my blogging agent. And here's the places in Sitecore that I want you to create that. And then as we saw in Sitecore, it went and did just that. It created underneath my blog folder, my blog content. Any questions, comments to talk through that? I am still here, right?
Yes, you're still here.
That
It
would
looks
be
like Ben had some notes in chat.
Oh, I can't see the chat. So what do you got there, Ben?
Yeah, I was just saying I like the idea of the n8n in combination with everything because you can kind of do a flow in the opposite direction too, where you want to go back to Teams and periodically run and kind of make content updates and send things over to Teams or Slack or other communication channels. So it's kind of omnidirectional.
Yeah, so like there's a lot coming out with the Agentic Studio. So to play nice with Sitecore, I want to say like there's a lot of capabilities within Agentic Studio to do things within Sitecore's walled garden. It can now talk to the Sitecore MCP server, I believe, better. Otherwise, it doesn't really close the loop. To me, that keeps things in the walled garden. The Sitecore MCP server itself opens up the walled garden to now allow me to come in with n8n or any technology. I can maybe use Optimizely Opal, which I've never heard about, but you can use Opal to interface with your MCP server in Sitecore and then read-write content from there to maybe do something else on that platform or anywhere, right? So now that it's open and now that I'm in shell, I can kind of do anything, right? So I like that it's like really interfaceable when I'm able to do it with an n8n. And then n8n itself just feels like a more open, works with anything technology than any DXP platform will provide. Every DXP platform is going to kind of lock you in to their models and their revenue streams. That's not going to earn me any type of MVP. But the point is, they want to get you to use their tools within their models because there's some opportunity for them. And it makes it easier for marketers to go in and just be in one tool in Agentic Studio and interact with your content without having to deal with all this. This took quite a bit of setup by me, a developer, to be able to get this all working. If you use Agentic Studio, you kind of get it all for free and it's all working. Let's kick it up a notch. Agentically. So what else can I use n8n to do? So once a month, I tell n8n to create an Excel of a content schedule for me to publish a blog every single day. And I pass it a bunch of authors and topics and what those authors blog about. And then once a day, also as a trigger, look at that content schedule and then write a blog on it. So instead of me going into Teams and say, hey, write a blog on no upgrades ever, I would have an Excel of all of my blog topics that are ready to go. And maybe I can add in my target audiences, and maybe I can add in and include these notes as well as part of my additional, no pun intended, flavor. And it can agentically do that on autopilot. So set that and forget it. It'll just go till the end of time as long as n8n is up. So let's say it spits out a file like this. Once a month, it's going to go, here's your topics for the next month. I can come in here and tweak it. There's all my authors and my focus areas and content. This was created by another process that I have where I said, hey, spit out an Excel once a month with all topics that are related to Sitecore and DXP. And then my next agent can pick up this and say like, okay, is today the day that I publish this? Great. Go through that workflow that we just showed. All right. So what did we learn here? Let's see. I have notes here that I literally, you're going to see my notes, whatever. Hopefully I taught you all something outside of Sitecore. My intent is, everybody in here is probably within Sitecore. So a lot of times I'm preaching to the choir. Sometimes maybe I'm not. Maybe you didn't use the Sitecore MCP server, but hopefully I was able to bring something to you outside of Sitecore that you can bolt onto Sitecore, like Claude prompt mode. I thought that was quite useful to myself when I came across that and how that I was able to use that, and then n8n as well. I am Steve Sabanko, and you can find me here or email me at NishTech. And if you have any questions about how a lot of this came together, or you have ideas about how you might be able to use it, I'm super curious to see how you might be using the 3 topics that we talked about here. I believe I have nothing but thank you slides from here on out. That is what I have.
That's perfect, Steve. Thank you.
Now I can see the chat. Now I can actually see everything. There's nothing useful in the chat. Great.
Maybe Mark has a question for you.
Yes, Mark.
I don't know. Where did you spend most of the work? It seems like you spent most of the work building out the workflow in that n8n platform.
Yes and no. So n8n workflows can be saved, imported, and exported as JSON. So life hack, I actually used Claude to generate my workflow file and imported it as JSON into n8n. So I had the basis of what the workflow I needed to be. So I said I wanted to start with the Teams trigger, then go to here, then go like research agent, then go to here. But because I was working, let me show you here. I'll share VS Code. Where are you? So my workflow file is right here. So because it's all in JSON, I was able to import this in, test it, see what broke, see what I didn't like, enhance it, add new things. I could do it in there, then save it, and then bring it back in here, which was nice because now it's in Git, so I can kind of save my work by having it as part of this JSON file. But it allowed me to use Claude to continue to enhance that workflow. Now, Claude did okay. It kind of clunked through it, which is why I had to go back and forth and do things in Claude, import it in, see a bunch of blinding errors, fix those errors, connect things myself, then say, okay, Claude, like let's add or tweak this. And then Claude would do a lot of my scripting and some of my advanced scripting for me. So the smaller the unit of work that you can give Claude, the better output it's going to get. So I was able to kind of go node by node by node and say, all right, this is what I want to do next. This is what I want to do next. And then just continually import and export it from n8n.
And then the other work was creating the agent rules. I'm guessing you also use Claude to help create the rules for your
Yeah,
agents.
do we do any work anymore? Yeah, I mean, Claude, it's incredibly powerful. You give it the overall, you kind of start with your planning files and you say, this is where I want to go. And I told it, like, here's the things. I want you to read from my tone. I want you to read from my brand critic. I want you to create, it's almost like AI creating AI at this point. Like, give yourself instruction files that are consistent so the next time do it this way. So certainly no shame in just using Claude to do this because Claude knows what it needs to expect. But then I can come in here and make sure that it aligns to what I'm trying to do as far as my tone critic or brand critic or technical critic. Yeah, for sure.
So then back to my original kind of thought, most of the work is really with Claude, interacting with Claude.
Most of the work would be interacting with Claude. Yeah, most of the work would be between n8n and Claude. And that workflow, if you're in that development workflow of making some tweaks in Claude, pulling it into n8n, wiring some things up manually, saving it, bringing it back here. I think if Claude was out of the equation, I would say that that's a good n8n workflow regardless to constantly save in there and then bring it into Git and then make your commit and say like, hey, I added a new node just from like a save checkpoint standpoint, because you can drag and drop, one little twitch of the mouse and then all of a sudden you like really broke something or it's just a really good process for me to constantly be saving my n8n work. But then as a side effect, because it's in here, I can then have Claude interact with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think pretty much anything I've been doing with an AI agent, I want to put things in Git because when you get it working, you want to save it because once it breaks it, I haven't written the code, so I don't know where I went wrong. It's like it may have done something broken. Now you're just totally screwed.
100%. And that's why you see this in Git, because it is really saving my work as I go. And it gets really fantastic tool. We're not looking at code, we're looking at markdown files here. I mean, I do have some, actually, I don't think I have any code in here. So it's just a really good way to save your work. All right.
Steve, I think there was one more question in the chat.
Yeah, let me take a look. How do you manage and maintain your Claude prompts for future reference or share with the team?
So how do I manage? So I write them in here. I'm able to view them in here as Grayward and I was just talking through. They're not within that n8n workflow. They're separated out as these prompt files here, and then sharing them with the team because this is in Git. I can give anybody access to these Claude files, these markdown files. Was that the question?
Yeah, that is a question, man. Thank you.
And what was the role of Docker again?
The role of Docker is because Claude is running, Claude is not Claude, n8n to run that locally. I can run that microservice up in a Docker container, or I can just run. This is all for some reason, like you can see here, it's like all messed up, but I'm running a couple things at once. ngrok to be able to expose. I'll show you my start. I'm running an ngrok tunnel. Hopefully there's no keys in here. There's no keys in there. Okay. So to expose my n8n process to my team's trigger. So otherwise I would start n8n like this, just n8n in the terminal. But you can run it as a Docker container as well. In this case, I'm just running the n8n process. You could also run n8n in a hosted shell someplace. I'm running it locally. So the second I close this terminal, oh, that's the other thing. The second I close these terminals, everything kind of dies. And there's two things that really break my entire workflow. One, the Sitecore MCP OAuth authentication. I have to authenticate that. I haven't figured this out. There's no like key authentication. It's only browser OAuth. According to the Sitecore documentation, that's the only way that it works.
And it only saves within a session, right? Like it'll expire.
It will expire. So when I come in here and I show you MCP Sitecore, when I started the day today, right now it says connected, but when I started today, it was very much disconnected. And that happens to me once a day. So that sucks. I haven't figured out how to work around that, but it's because I'm using my subscription for Claude. Now, if I use tokens, my API tokens is just called Claude, it would just use the tokens that I have to buy credits with Anthropic or whatever LLM. This is just because I chose to hack around that and use it within this CLI session, but it does expire. So that applies to both Sitecore and, oh, I'm sorry. That applies to, yeah, Sitecore and
Claude.
also Claude as well. Claude has a longer expiration. I don't think I've had to log into that in quite some time, like months, maybe. I don't know what the expiration on that token is. So I apologize. Well, I did mean, I meant the Claude, that workaround was for the Claude OAuth. For the Sitecore one, I mean, regardless of using the token-based or the Claude CLI, like you're going to run into that OAuth mess anyways. So maybe if somebody can help me out there, I haven't figured out how to keep this thing authenticated. And the only way that I know how to do it is to manually come in here once a day and do it. So that breaks my whole like authentication model or my whole agentic model of this thing happening on autopilot. Because if somebody has to come in here and re-auth the CLI session, then that's useless. So there is one flaw to this whole thing. It's Sitecore's OAuth in a browser expiring once a day.
Yeah, you could probably have some sort of agent do that too.
I mean, I'll show you, right? If I re-authenticate this, it has to, I don't know how
you would like
do
need
this.
like a Selenium driver to authenticate
like
with
that.
the client credentials.
You
Yeah,
have to
something
like
that could interface with the browser.
it'd have to read this. And if I click this, it's going to open in Chrome, and then it makes me do two-factor authentication